Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of That's Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers, or really anyone who works for themselves. I am Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters, and I am here as always with the divine Karen Swim. She is the leader of our pack at Solo PR Pro. How are you, Karen?
I am quite frankly exhausted, but good, Michelle. How are you
Yeah,
doing?
it's like, oh my goodness, it's a whole new month. How did that happen? What?
I know. October did come and go pretty fast.
It did, it really did, and so now, we've got all that Q4 stuff happening. I don't know about you, but my clients have holiday initiatives, all the great philanthropic stuff happening, and I'm thinking, "Let's get this stuff rolling. Ho, ho, ho." But what we're actually gonna talk about today is TMI, too much information. How much should you share with your clients? And this could really run the gamut from personal things like, if you're not feeling well, you just say, "I need to be out of the office, I'm not feeling well," or, I guess it really depends on the comfort level you have with your clients, but still you wanna keep that veneer of professionalism, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, full full disclosure, and I think I disclosed this in another episode, I got bit by the Rona, by COVID, and, thankfully it was just mild, so I was still plugging away every day, so I really didn't say anything unless it impacted my ability to meet face to face or to attend engagements. Was that right or wrong? I don't know, but I thought, what are they?
I
But
mean,
they don't.
I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer, but I do
Right.
think that given this environment that we operate in, it is helpful to check in with other
Yes.
people and have, some guidelines that could help you to set what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So I am still a huge fan of not oversharing with a client. And
Agree.
for us solos, we do usually enjoy very close relationships with our clients
Right.
that really become friendships because we are often, so close with them that we become an extension of their team. We get to know them really well because that's how solos roll. It's one of our superpowers. Um, but even when I am working with true friends, like, offline real
Hmm.
world friends that bring me in, I do try to at least keep things professional in the work environment.
Agree.
But that doesn't mean not be human.
Right.
So, one of the things that I've loved about this pandemic is that we are realizing that we're whole people
Yes.
and it's okay to have to take care of your baby. It's
Yeah.
okay when, you are working from home and your dog barks. It's okay if you're not feeling well. It's okay if you're not feeling your mental best self on that day.
Right.
So I
Right.
I love the honesty about those disclosures. I can understand your hesitancy specifically about disclosing that you had COVID because I feel as though there's still, and maybe it's us, this stigma. And you don't even want to
Mm.
have the conversations that come along with disclosing that you have COVID because
Mm.
inevitably, I lost a cousin to COVID very
Mm.
recently.
Yeah.
And I really didn't talk about it on social media because I did not want his death to be social media
Right.
fodder for the
Right.
for or against vaccines.
Right.
So I just didn't say anything, which was
Yeah.
horrifying because it's been a really difficult time for my family. So with that
Yeah.
specific, illness, I get it, but I also feel like we should be able to be not okay. And if
Yeah.
you are sick, we need to tell our clients that we're sick. And something like COVID, that is not the flu, that can be
Right.
long lasting and have dire consequences. It's we shouldn't have to buck up
Yeah.
and make it work because
Yeah. That's very
we're
true.
human beings
We
and
are.
we owe it to ourselves to take care of our mental and physical health. And so, and this takes some work. I am not perfect at this,
Oh, clearly I am
definitely
horrible
not
at it.
perfect.
And yeah, and it was definitely and I did do just that. It was more of, it's like, "Hey, if I'm not 100% on my game, here's why."
Yeah.
Because I'm not exactly working, full normal days, and, the ones I didn't, like, outright share, it's just because, it didn't really come up, but I'm terrible, and I'm getting better. This is the person who I didn't get chickenpox until I was in college, and I didn't know what it was. I just thought maybe this is my junior year nervous breakdown because I didn't feel well and I didn't know why, and I thought,
Oh,
"It's happening, I'm cracking," and I just remember having this raging headache, which turned out it was a fever, who knew? I'm yeah, smart girl, right? Magna cum laude, how'd that go? Um and I remember specifically taking a midterm and then saying, "I guess I should go to the infirmary." And she's just like, "Yeah,
oh.
you need to leave." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
That is so
So
I'm so sorry, but I can
that's
understand you not, at that point when you're a kid, you expect to get some of these things. I mean, you
no,
don't expect it,
not.
but your
No,
parents
no,
expect it. But
because
as
it
an
came
adult, you're
yeah,
not necessarily that's not the first thing that pops in your mind.
right.
But
No, no.
you said something that's really key, and I think
Mhm.
this is definitely a solo thing. It is not it doesn't cut across the board
Mm,
because we are our companies and because
yes.
we're self-employed, there's always this hesitancy to give your clients any doubt that you
Right.
are capable of doing the work. So I
100%.
understand that we feel as though if we say not feeling well, that these are the two things that can happen. Clients will be looking for you to screw up or doubt that, you can't say you're not at your best because they always expect your best work. So they'll be looking for errors, or they will want to somehow make this about your invoice at the end of the month.
Mm,
So it's difficult to tell somebody I got to take this week off
mhm.
because I'm sick.
Right,
So you
right.
just try to work through it. But
Yeah,
you also know, because we know that we're not at our absolute best. And so sometimes you've got to admit that, like, I'm really sorry, not feeling well. But I think that there's a compromise in there somewhere.
yeah,
And I think that we actually have to be bold enough and brave enough to stand up for ourselves and for
yeah,
the work that we do. So,
yeah.
number one, we are not hourly workers. We are not being paid to punch a clock. And I think that it's well worth reminding clients of that in tactful and subtle ways, but being strong and
Mhm.
firm about that. I also think that we can always come from a position of power by the way that we present the messaging. So
Mhm.
you can say things like, listen, I got COVID. Well, I'm not feeling particularly ill. I am having moments in the day where I'm not feeling the greatest. So here is the plan so that we can keep things on track.
Mhm.
Maybe that's one of my colleagues has jumped in to support me, or I'm feeling well enough to continue working, but I have a colleague that I'm keeping in the loop as a backup so that
Right.
we don't lose momentum with X. So when you take charge and you present how you're handling it, hey,
Mhm.
I have had a death in the family. Here's what I'm doing. So and so is covering for me. Let me connect you via email as I take this time out. Here's when I plan to be back. But in the interim,
Right.
so and so will keep things running. So don't be afraid to say that you need something, because the bad part of not speaking up is that then you're just working wounded. And
Right.
I have done that for so many years of my career. I
Mhm.
know what that feels like. I am embarrassed now to say that I have been on the way to a funeral, my dad, to be specific, coordinating a media interview in the car. Part of that could have been crazy grief because your mind wants to do
Right.
anything else except face the
Absolutely.
pain. But it also is insane. And today, the person that I am today would not do that.
Right. No, I
Just won't.
and yeah, I mean, I could see myself because you're thinking, "Oh, I'm in the car. I've got this time. Let me just do this. It's not a big deal,"
Yeah.
as
And
opposed to taking
again,
that time.
crazy
Yeah.
grief, because
Yeah.
grief can do
Yeah.
that. You
Right. I
just
need
don't want to,
distraction.
I don't want to grieve. I don't want to be in pain. So let
Right.
me just focus on work. But
Right. Right.
but that kind of stuff can wear on you, and
Oh,
your body
totally.
remembers the
Yes.
trauma of you not taking care of it, your mind remembers. And so I
Right.
have learned through much trial and error, which is why I'm so adamant about
Yeah.
speaking up about it, because I never want anyone
Yeah.
to have that experience.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that we all hung out a shingle of our own is not just so that we could be in control and be our own boss, but there was something that we wanted. We wanted to create our own reality. We wanted to have more control over how and when we work and whom we get to work with.
Mhm.
So it, it would be sad to take this brave leap to starting your own business only to let other people dictate the kind of business that you have. I mean, if you're going to do that, what did you really gain by jumping out of, corporate America?
Right.
If you're going
And
to let everybody else control what you do and how you show up, then
yeah.
you really haven't taken the leap. You sort of partially taken on the risk, and you've left some of the things behind, but not all. And so I think that there's this, if there was ever a time that we could change this, we need to take on the attitude of Gen Z, if you're not a Gen Zer, and say, I see your tradition and I challenge
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Because
and
they are so not here for it. They're
right.
like, I see that problem, but
Yeah.
I'm not about to accept that. You're
Right.
about to change it for me.
Right. Right. Where we of Gen X, we saw what our parents did and the parents before them, and we thought, "Oh, okay, I've got to play this game." And then as we're growing in our careers, we're seeing the state of flux, and I think as Gen Xers do, we adapt because we just put our heads down and deal with it, but there's still that talk in your psyche. But I do love what you said about, communicating with the clients and, just, letting them know, and I love what you said about, yes, we're not hourly employees, and at the same time, I think the very thing that makes us successful solos of, worrying about, "Oh my gosh, I made one mistake, now they're gonna be looking for everything," and there are some people, they will, but I think sometimes it helps to kind of put yourself in that employee mindset of, "Do they do that with their employee? No, they don't. Oh, you messed up? Oh, okay, well, try not to do that again, and you fixed it, and it's okay, because I know, oh my goodness, I can get in my head so badly of, "Oh my gosh, I did that one thing, and this is the end. They're gonna fire me." And even though as I'm doing that to myself, I know in the back of my head, "Michelle, you really gotta get better motivators, because that's kind of a little crazy, but it does make you what you are and why you're here and blah, 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 blah," and then exhale, have a cup of decaf, and move on with the day.
Yeah.
But, I think, at the end of the day, communication is and transparency, as with anything, is key. Um, just
I agree. I mean, and I want to shy away from the word transparency a little bit because I
mm,
know we use it a lot. I do
yeah,
too. What we really mean is, is having some type of a true north and being
yes,
truthful and
yes.
honest and true to who you are. We don't really want to be fully transparent because there are some things that are nobody's business. If you are going through a
You think?
nasty divorce, you don't need to share all the details of that with your
Yeah,
clients.
yeah,
It's just, don't do it. They
right,
don't need to be in your business in that way. If
right.
but if something is, and so here's how you fix that. We all have those days where we just need to let it out. So the first thing that you can do proactively now, when life is good, is to make sure that you have people that you can actually go to.
Yeah,
And I would have a mix of family, friends, and professional people that you trust and can go and share things with, whether you need to vent or rant or you need the advice. You need to craft messaging because you do need to share something with a client and you want to be honest, but you don't want to tell them every single little micro detail.
right.
And you don't need to. So this is another failing. You can share with clients information without going into all of the details. And I think that solos also fall into this trap of feeling like we have to apologize for things and we feel like we have to explain
Mhm,
everything. You can say that you're out
mhm,
sick without saying exactly what's wrong with you.
yeah,
I'm out sick today. Here's when I'll be back.
yeah,
It's
simple,
none of their business what's wrong with you. Most
simple.
people will just keep it moving with their life and go, hope you feel better.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah,
So,
it's isn't that the magic thing though? Yeah, and that goes so far with life, right? People
yeah.
think about you far less than you think they do.
They honestly do.
They're
I
not gonna go
mean,
that deep.
it's just true. They're not
Yeah.
gonna go
They're
that
not
deep,
a
and even if it's something more serious, like, "Hey, I'm having surgery, I'll be out here." You don't have to tell them what the surgery is if you don't
right,
want to. You really don't. You can just say if you wanna minimize it, you can say, "Listen, no big deal. Thanks for, the message of support or whatever. Here's how I'm handling, your account while
right.
I am out for surgery and recovery."
Yeah,
So and present it with confidence. You do not have to explain because you are
no.
not a Walmart worker. There is not a magic time clock that you walk through a door and you punch it, and
That's right.
somebody is not going to pay you your money because you
Yes,
did not work exactly 8 hours and take two 15-minute breaks.
right.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I think, know your value and
Mhm.
always have a plan is really key. And keep it professional always. Like, you can never go
Mhm.
wrong erring on the side of professionalism,
Right.
but if you do need to share something, then you also have control over how much you want to share.
Agree, agree, and I think a big part of, getting to this space if you're not there is, internalizing the fact that you are a business owner just as much as everyone else, and if it helps, pull out your tax return every year and look at that thing. You file a corporate tax return. You're not just as, life is not as simple as when it was just a little 1040. Of course, you got those too. But, you are every bit a business owner. It doesn't matter if you're just yourself, if you work with vendors, if you have employees. So, you are peer to peer in that regard. And that is the beauty of it. And at the same time comes the responsibility of you're correct. You know, don't overshare because you might feel on a certain level with someone because even, you know, my friendliest of client relationships, I still remember that I'm a service provider to them, so you don't need to overstep some boundaries or, just certain things. You can have a collegiality, of course, and get along and joke and things, but sometimes, especially let's, consider this divided climate we're in, it's like I'll listen to your opinions, but no, as a business to business people, I'll just listen. This is not my place to discuss that.
And there are days that you want to.
Oh, absolutely. But it's
There are
it's like
days that I'm like,
yeah,
I am so exhausted and I don't feel like dealing with your mess today.
yeah,
I just
yeah,
want to go crawl under my bed and not come out for the next week.
yeah.
But instead, I just say, a little tired, but good. Thank you.
Yeah. You just go, okay, yeah, you. Good for you. I'm glad you feel that way. That's great. Isn't
Oh,
it
you want
wonderful?
life now?
Isn't it wonderful we can all have these things to say? Yay.
I love it.
Oh, but you know what? I mean, we're communications professionals. So, a lot of this, thankfully, it's not a big leap for us to engage in this way and know what to do. Sometimes you just kind of have to check in with yourself and, say, "Oh, I am the boss." That's right.
You are
Yeah.
the boss. And just the way that you give respect to the
Yeah.
CEOs of your company, remember that you also are the CEO of your own company and that they are fortunate to be dealing with a senior executive and not with junior people.
That's
So,
true. That is true. Yeah,
yeah,
there's no
empower
bait and
yourself.
switch. No bait and switch in a solo shop, that's for sure. But
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely empower yourself as you were saying. It's so important to do. And also, what you were saying of having your close circle of people, 'cause I'll do the shameless plug. One place you can go is the Solo PR Pro Facebook group. So when membership opens up again, we totally encourage you to investigate that. I don't know, is there a date on that just of yet, or we'll just tell people to
That is
stay tuned?
that is the magical little question of the day. We
That's okay.
we are inching closer, but we've got a little bit of tooling on our website, and so
Excellent.
I hope to be able to announce the reopening date by the end of this week.
Sweet, sweet.
Drum
So, hey,
roll.
so it'll be a before Black Friday holiday shopping bonanza. You can put that on your Christmas list or your Hanukkah
Did
list.
not even think about that because, you know, for solos or anybody in public relations right now, I doubt that anybody's really thinking about the holiday. What you're thinking about is this mad race to the end of the year, and
Yeah,
you're just trying to work through your to-do list. And
yeah.
you know that somewhere in here holidays fall, but you cannot think about them right now.
Exactly, exactly. Well, we do thank you for your time. We value your time and we value that you choose to spend some of it with us. So, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it around, tell your friends, and until next time, thanks for listening to That Solo Life.